Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Very, very good evening. Sunday, 12th of May 2024. Sorry, I am tired. It's been a long week. It's been a tiring week, long week. My name is Raj. I'm here. It's Recusant Nine transmission. And for those of you who get offended by what I share, please turn off now and don't watch. It's as straightforward as that. Don't phone my friends. Don't text my friends or my family abusing me or abusing them to abuse me. Just don't watch. This is a free country. Last I looked, and I am allowed to share my political analysis as I see fit. Particularly, this message is for, of course, Mark Hince, Councillor Mark Hince of the Secret Squirrel Fake Independent Party from Shaw. Don't watch, Mark. Put that, go back to your wine, bottle, glass, litre, whatever it is, and get on with your evening. But if you think you're going to in any way intimidate and harass me from sharing what I share, you've got another thing coming. And of course, Councillor Hince, you have my phone number. If you're feeling that brave, pick up the phone, give me a call. Because what you tried today, what you tried this week, with the aid of Cammy G, was a betrayal not just to Shaw, but a betrayal to the entire borough. From Greenfield to Gloddick, Grinnickers, Werneth, Westwood, Waterhead, all of those areas, it was a complete and utter betrayal. Thank you for liking and sharing, and for those of you confused about the not liking and sharing, well, I'd be also happy if we could get to a place where I could just share the link via the web page and people not bother me for a link because they can't log onto their account, or they've blocked the emails, or they've done something. So that's why I just shared it. Okay, let's get that out of the way. That's why I've just shared it, because I can't be asked picking up my phone and sending 15 links or 20 links to a range of people who can't figure out how to log on. No offense to any of you. So I just shared it. There's no point. So I just put it out and share, and I've shared it on Telegram because I started reading the messages saying I can't get this, I can't get that. Okay, forget it. There's no point. There's no point whatsoever. Share it as much as you want. This, I think, will be in terms of the political analysis, probably maybe one or two more transmissions. I have promised people I will do a transmission specifically on my court case, and I wanted to sleep on that because it's just been over a week now from when I walked free from court after 3 years, just under 3 years on bail, and I wanted to time to absorb and reflect what had taken place. And for those of you who've spoken to me, you know I've had nothing but a series of horrific migraines, all linked to the stress and the anxiety of being persecuted for 3 years. Now I know many of you have been on this journey with me, but at the end of the day it's me who's having to live it. So that's why I didn't want to jump into straight away sharing a transmission. I will share a transmission, I think, next Sunday, or specifically on the court case and what happened, particularly, especially because of the statement issued by Jim McMahon MP this week, wanting me to be arrested again. I'll bring that up in a moment. If you find value in these transmissions, please like, please share, please subscribe to the webpage, Red Wall and the Rabble. It's completely free. You only need to pick the 75 pence a week subscription if you are minded to do so. If you are here and find value in the transmissions, you can use the super chat, and at some point some of the money might come to me. It hasn't done yet, but at some point I'm sure it will come to me via YouTube. Or you can do what I prefer, which is the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is at the top of the page. So please, if you find value in these transmissions, at least sign up for free to the webpage. There's a 98 of you watching already, so let's get on with this evening's transmission. This is the malicious blogger and proven liar, the so-called journalist Neil Wilby, who has been actively involved in attempting to have me killed, because that's what it is when you share the front door of my home and claim I'm a police informant. It's gone back for 3 years or 4 years. I've never said anything to the man for him to have done any of this. He is obsessed with me, and unfortunately he has been encouraged over the years by council officers, council leaders, politicians, and also the MP Jim McMahon. Now, he shared this, whatever this is, his article or something as to why I walked free from court, and twisted it and spun it into something. Well, you were all there in court. The woman's name is Gail Hatfield Granger, and she decided she wanted to go on holiday rather than turn up to the trial where she was the key witness. And between them and the CPS, they failed to notify the court. Now, what that's got to do with me, I have no idea. But my position has been clear from the moment they arrested me, that my arrest was politically motivated. Wilby is ranting that my position has no basis in facts or evidence. Well, I believe it does, because the police officer who arrested me said it was political. The police officer who arrested me right at the beginning, with 8 police officers hammering at my door in a dawn raid, claimed it was political. And my last arrest, when I walked free, they also claimed it was a political arrest because they wanted me out of the way in the lead up to the local elections when Amanda Chadderton was standing. They wanted me imprisoned on remand. So that is what I am dealing with. And individuals like Mr. Neil Wilby, who is problematic as they are, as troublesome as they are, and despite my repeated reports to the police, they've never interviewed him. And that's after him at least twice, trying to interfere in court trials where I was giving evidence. Never mind his abuse of me. Twice trying to interfere in a witness. And that's all evidenced. One day a story will be told, and when that story will be told, the story will be why it is that an MP, a shadow minister, is actively engaging with this man in his campaign of abuse and harassment. That shadow minister's name is Jim McMahon, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon. The continued laying of false allegations with no basis in fact or could be reasonably believed is harassment. If there is any political bias, it's to Raja Mia's advantage, and I don't say that lightly. It's time the authorities stopped pandering and acted. This is the shadow minister calling for my arrest after I've been on bail for 3 years, and now the last of the cases collapsed against me. And to be clear, it's now 4 years, 5 years, approaching 5 years from when I was first interviewed under caution. One after another malicious allegation made against me, where the police refused to look at the evidence before dragging me into a police cell. I turned 51 years old in a couple of weeks. I'm not a criminal. I don't deal drugs. I don't steal cars. I don't stick broomsticks off young men's backsides who have kidnapped off the street. All of those are the things that the gangsters affiliated with the Labour Party do, with people who endorse Jim McMahon do. I am none of those things. And this is absolutely disgraceful by Keir Starmer's shadow minister. Of course, we all know why he wants me arrested. He wants me arrested because he wants to prevent me from standing in the general election against him. An old friend of mine phoned me Saturday night. An old friend of mine phoned me on Saturday night. I've not spoken to him in a while. I used to work with them when they were in government. Phoned me to check up on me. Had heard that the case had collapsed, and that's why they got the courage to phone me. And I spoke to them. I was kind. They were, and we spoke. I asked how the family was. She hadn't known that my mother had died. I mentioned that the young man she remembers isn't the young man she sees on the odd videos that she catches up on. My hair's gone grey. And I didn't blame her for not contacting me and checking up on me as often as she once would have. It's because she's scared. These people are powerful. These people are really powerful. You need to understand that. I know to some people it's like some sort of soap opera and it's a game. This is my life. It's my family's life. This is my life. I'm living this every moment. These people are powerful. We know that Greater Manchester Police has been politically infiltrated. We know that would not be possible without the complicity of Andy Burnham, the Police and Crime Commissioner. He knows this, we know this, you know this. This is a cabal, a Labour Party cabal, who are hell-bent on preventing us from securing justice for the children in our town who are groomed and gang-raped. It's no more complicated than that. These people aren't after me because I've done something to them personally. These people aren't after me because they want something from me. These people are after me because I refuse to shut up and refuse to be intimidated. And I have a set of skills which I have used to communicate what has really gone on in this town and towns like ours, and shifted it from the racist far-right nonsense that they tried to contain this issue in. I've explained to you logically, consistently, regardless of who it was, when it was, my story has been the same. Our children were groomed and gang raped. These were racially motivated crimes, and they were covered up for political purposes. And what do I want? Have I gone round with a machete? No, Louise, I've not. Do I have grenades in my arsenal? No, I don't. I am politically educated. I've spent time in my life campaigning or learning from the campaigns of people who fought tyranny overseas, and I've taken all of that and applied it to my hometown. And my campaign has been, one, we will win this at the ballot box through democracy, and two, to campaign for a public inquiry. A no holds barred public inquiry where no one can hide. And these people want me arrested and imprisoned because of that. So for me, this isn't an ego trip. It's not a person, it's not some sort of desire to be on some reality TV. I don't want to be popular. I have no interest in any of that. I found myself in a position where I had to look at myself in the mirror and ask myself what sort of man I was. And I was a sort of man that could not look away whilst children were gang raped. We've had people say it's toxic online, and the ones who make reference to me as toxic are those who use the language to try and shut me up in the same way the Labour Party threw the allegation of racist and far right at me to shut me up. I'm not toxic. The truth is not toxic. Standing up for myself is not toxic. Refusing to surrender to bullies is not toxic. So calling me toxic is actually a reflection on what you want to bury rather than anything that comes from me. I posted this 5 days ago, early in the week, and I can't believe the abuse I have got as a consequence. I'll read it to you. Following last night's transmission, this was Sunday night, there are meetings now scheduled between the leaders of both the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives. As a direct consequence of nearly 6 years of relentless campaigning, we are presented with a once-in-a-generation opportunity to take this town away from the tyrannical rule of the Labour Party. I urge both main opposition parties to set aside their differences and work for the greater good. Nowhere in that do I promote myself. Nowhere in that do I get in bed with either the Conservatives or the Liberal Democrats or any particular politician from that side. I am merely responding to the facts on the ground. It's up to the two main opposition parties to lead the way and form a coalition to take control of Oldham Council away from the Labour Party. What the response from this was from this man, which is Mark Hince, really. Mark Hince posting behind this. His show in Crompton is with Lisa Navesey and Mark Hince. So they tagged in the two new councillors. So it's Mark Hince talking to Mark Hince and Lisa Navesey. Breaking news, please read and share. All of a sudden, an out-of-town commentator is championing Howard Sykes to be leader of OMBC, ? That's not a question, you imbecilic fool. Why have you put a question mark on the end of that? One, is factually inaccurate. But two, it's not a question. All of a sudden. Two, it isn't all of a sudden. I've been at this for 5 years, Mince, before you came along and jumped on the gravy train. I've been at this through thick and thin. And I've been very much sober throughout it. Because I need to have a complete clarity of mind and razor sharp focus that I've not needed in a long time. So for 5 years, I have been 100% focused on this. So it's not all of a sudden. Secondly, I have a name, have the courage to use it. My name is Raja Mia. And you can claim I'm an out-of-town commentator. Well, one, I'm not out of town anything. But two, I'm not a commentator. I'm a campaigner. And apparently, I'm championing Howard Sykes. Once, I just want to go back. This is what I posted. This is what I posted. Following last night's transmission, there are meetings now scheduled between the leader of both the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives. As a direct consequence of nearly 6 years of relentless campaigning, we are presented with a once-in-a-generation opportunity to take this town away from the tyrannical rule of the Labour Party. I urge both main opposition parties to set aside their differences and work for the greater good. Who disagrees with what I've said? Who disagrees with what I've said? Councillor Hints and Lisa Navesey clearly do, because they want to abuse me. The same out-of-town commentator who has previously lambasted Howard Sykes' character and record. Can Howard Sykes be trusted? Blah, blah, blah. So he wants to use this to attack Howard Sykes, but wants to attack me. For what? Sharing the truth? That some things are more important? My first rule, and we've all been on this journey together, so you know this, but I want to share this with you again. First base for me has always been we need to remove Labour Party councillors. For us to get to any place, any space where we can mend this town. If we are to mend it at all. So that our children and our grandchildren can grow up calling this place home and be proud of it. If we are to do that, the first thing we need to do is remove the Labour Party councillors. That's what we've done. First base, remove Labour. In the lead up to this election, I ran a transmission on who to vote for. Who is the most effective person to vote for to remove Labour and get this council into no overall control. When it came to Waterhead, I promoted Naveed Chauhan from the Oldham group, even though I had reservations about the Oldham group because he was the best person there. When it came to Royton South, I promoted Jade Hughes from the Royton Independents. This is despite my history with the Royton Independents, because she was the most appropriate person to support if you wanted to remove Labour. So first base for me has always been about getting the council into no overall control from where we can build on. Always. Even when people have slighted me, abused me, I have promoted them and I've continued to promote them. Because we need them. What I've also shared with you throughout this, and it's a reflection on myself more than anyone else. In fact, no, it is an exclusive reflection of myself. I have made so many mistakes. Some could have been prevented. Some were a consequence of inexperience, because I am learning as much as anyone else. And then there are mistakes that are a consequence of so much pressure. Remember, these people have tried to kill me. And what I say, looking to myself but using it to try and encourage those politicians who have failed us or not done what they should have done. And there's so many of them from across so many parties. We did not get here because of the Labour Party on its own. We also got here because the opposition parties did not have the backbone to stand up. And over the last 5 years, we have provided them with that backbone. And I've always said, it's not the making of mistakes that's the measure of a man or a woman. It's not the making of mistakes that's the measure of someone. It's what they do after they've made the mistakes. And when I read last Sunday's transmission, I hadn't read Howard Sykes' statement. I hadn't read Howard Sykes' statement. But what Councillor Howard Sykes from the main opposition party listed as his #1 priority, and this was echoed by the Conservatives as listing as their #1 priority, was a public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. They listed that as a #1 priority. Now, how can I not support that? If I believe what I believe, and the making of a person isn't the mistakes that they've made, but it's what they do next, and they list that as a #1 priority, how can I not support them? Immediately after my transmission, he sent this to a friend of mine. Hi mate, hope you are good. You can see it's from the Sean Crompton Facebook page, and this is from Mark Ince. And I accept your point, Tony, I accept your point. But this has to be done because this isn't just about the handful of us that have been on this journey. It is that there's a greater audience and more of an audience coming on to what we talk about. And I think that, Gary. I think that. They were lazy and cowardly. Hi mate, I hope you're good. Absolutely furious with Raja's stance on Howard Sykes, the pedo protector. Now I'm presuming he's making reference to Howard Sykes as the pedo protector rather than myself as the pedo protector. I will do anything to ensure he does not become leader of OMBC, and moreover, the independents will not sit in the back, now voiceless. He will do anything. This is an independent councillor who stood on a platform alongside all the other independents. The independent group, they sort of called themselves, didn't they? TIG. Mark Wilkinson went and sat next to him. Brian Hoban sat next to him. The Royton Independent sat next to him. Many of you shared a meal with him, sat next to him, had a drink with him. He will do anything to ensure anything. That anything means he would prop up Arud Shah and keep Labour in power. Now, anything means he would scupper a public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children. What sort of leadership is this? His anything then gets worse. By the way, he then deletes the message, but would screen grab the message, or he unsends the message. He then posts my own post exposing Rod Blythe. People in Shaw knew about Rod Blythe, just as people in Oldham, in the politics of Oldham, knew about the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. When Warren Bates put that dossier in front of me, he was desperate, because no one else had had the courage to pick it up and say this cannot be allowed to happen. When the people of Shaw brought me what Rod Blythe had done and how it had been covered up, my issue isn't Rod Blythe per se of doing what he did. My issue is the cover-up. I couldn't look the other way. So I don't remember Mark Hince or any of his mates bringing it to public attention and saying this is unacceptable. It was me who did it. And what these Hince had done with his do anything was he arranged a meeting with Cameron Gaffer. And you can see, Hince says, you are now on board with the pedo denier. Whoa, what a turnaround. Where have I turned around? Where have I turned around? Because a public inquiry, if these people stopped being experts at all things and actually took the time to listen, to read, they'd understand that the scope of a public inquiry would also have to include the cover-up of Rod Blythe and other sex offenders in the council, convicted child sex offenders in the council who are moved on, quietly hushed over. It'd have to include all of that. And if Howard Sykes, who would have known that, has agreed to a motion on a public inquiry, then he's done the right thing. And no, stop with this nonsense. Or even asking it, Theresa. Stop with it. I've read the nonsense on that thread. They abstained or whatever. They didn't abstain. They voted in support of it. They voted in support of the public inquiry. If anyone tried to scupper the public inquiry vote last time, or the independent judge-led inquiry, Telford-style judge-led inquiry, it was Mark Hince. The reason why people, or one of the reasons why people trust me, is because I tell the truth. I communicate facts. The Liberal Democrats, no more than the Conservatives, have vetoed, blocked, voted against, abstained, any of that. When Brian Hoban first took a motion, it was Brian Hoban who first took the motion. It was called far right and all the rest of it. The Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives got in line. The Liberal Democrat, Howard, even wrote to the government asking for a public inquiry, and of course they wouldn't, because that request would have to come from the council. So that's what happened. Even in his latest MEN interview outlining his priorities, he makes no mention of an independent inquiry into historic CSE. No, Mark hints. In the MEN interview, it's not an interview. The MEN took the statement on Howard Sykes' webpage and listed their priorities. The MEN omitted the number one priority that Howard Sykes himself has put up on the Lib Dem Facebook page and also on the web page last Sunday night. And the number one priority is a public inquiry. Now the MEN didn't print it for obvious reasons, because the MEN, the Local Democracy Reporting Service, is in the pockets of the council. So what he then did was abusing me and abusing the Lib Dems, which he can do. I have no issue with one councillor having another go at another councillor. I'd prefer it to be based on facts rather than fiction. Because he does the people of Shaw a disservice. Because when they voted for independence in Shaw, they wanted a better style of politics. But this man has stated he would do anything to keep Howard Sykes from becoming leader. So that anything included propping up Arud Shah, blocking a public inquiry, but that anything goes even further. That anything went even further. Friday night, there was a meeting held at Cafe East. Now, Cafe East is Cameron Guffor's restaurant in town. It's the old Greaves Arms. HMO millionaire. He's on record, this councillor hints, for making reference to HMOs as poverty pimping, poverty farming. Now he's gone running to Cammy G. And Paul Eric's got himself involved. And their hope was all 16 or all 17 of the independents would attend this meeting and they'd form a grand coalition. And then they'd be able to stop Howard Sykes from becoming leader. The problem, or the number of problems with what happened. First of all, they tried to bully and harass councillors to attend, independent councillors to attend. Paul Eric made repeated phone calls to councillors, markings, tried to play off one councillor against another. Oh, such and such a body's coming, you better be there. Or such and such a body's coming, you better be there. When neither had agreed to go in the first place, and when they found out and spoke to each other, neither turned up and were angry at Markins and Paul Eric for attempting to manipulate, bully and pressure them into attending. Also, attending a meeting at Cameron Guffor's restaurant isn't really a good look when Cameron Guffor got in off the back of a very, very divisive sectarian interpretation of the Gaza conflict. Remember, these guys were kicked out of the Conservative Party for anti-Semitism. 2 were expelled, 1 was suspended, pending training that he never did. And these two men, Paul Eric and Mark Ince, got into bed with Cameron Gaffar. The town that Cameron Gaffar wants to create is not the town I want to live in. Let me be very clear on that. And I'll play something later so you can get wind of some of that. So they met. The meeting was a complete disaster, to which Hinz published something and Eric published something. Hinz publishes this. I have been asked to put out a short statement regarding talks between independent councillors and the future of OMBC. Tonight, I and others, well, who asked you to put it out, is the first question. And why are you putting out on this page and not on the Shaw and Crompton page? Tonight, I and others were at a well-attended meeting with independent councillors, so well-attended that neither Mark Ince nor Paul Eric will say how many independent councillors turned up. The aim of which was to establish potential future cohesion on issues relating to our communities and what we believe our mandate is within any coalition going forward. That's just bullshit bingo. It was an attempted coup where they thought they could get 17 together to take control of the council and force Howard Sykes and the others to dance, Howard Sykes and the Lewis Quigg and the Conservatives to dance to the tune. A handful turned up. And of those that turned up, not everyone wanted to join up with them. Cammy G turned up. Mark Ince turned up. Some of the Oldham group turned up, and that was pretty much it. Brian Hobin went. He told me he was going. I said he should go. And listen and hear these people out. What they wanted was to take control. And what Mark Ince hasn't realised was that he'll do anything to stop Howard Sykes getting in power. Well, Cameron Gaffar was already in negotiation with Howard Sykes to try and secure himself the deputy leader role. You say this, Raymond, and I want to disagree with you. But the reality is I can't disagree with you because these people are taking us down a road of sectarian politics. Cameron Gaffar, Shoaib Akhtar, the Oldham group are taking us down a path of further division. Mark Ince, who I've also got evidence has been pandering to Cameron Gaffar from before the election, wants power. I think that's clear to anyone. And he wants his hatred for Howard Sykes is put ahead of anything to do with Shaw or the town. Paul Eric, who has had exchanged pleasantries with, likes to be the centre of attention. I don't think even he would deny that. He likes to be involved. He likes to be the centre of attention. He likes to claim credit. I ain't got an issue with that. What I've got an issue with is them trying to force the others to attend a meeting to surrender our town to Cameron Gaffar and his sectarian brand of politics. That's what I've got a problem with. Brian Hobin told them, no chance. Mark Wilkinson, Sandra Ball didn't go. You watch this, Mark. How many times did Cameron Gaffar contact you, wanting you to sign a piece of paper? How many times did Paul Eric contact you, wanting you to attend this meeting? The right and independence, I have very little time for. Did the right thing, stayed away. Well done to Maggie and to Jade. And the Failsworth independence, obviously Brian went, but nothing to do with it. In fact, he exposed them and asked the questions that they wanted to ignore. So he put this out. The outlying principles discussed tonight will be communicated with both the Lib Dems and Conservatives to see if this can form the basis of a future agreement. So they want positions of power. They want positions of power. Would the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives have put forward their priorities of what they want to see for the people of Oldham? Would the Failsworth Independents have come forward and said, this is what we want to see for the people of Oldham, which included a public inquiry? And also greater transparency in governance? Hints and the Oldham group, because that's all there is. Hints and Gaffar want positions of power. Because what they should be doing, what the adults in the room would be doing, is not what can I have for me, it's what can we do for the people we represent. But as we can see by now, Mark Ince is not of that calibre of politician. Cameron Gaffar was never of that calibre of politician. Paul Eric put a post out. He also put a video out. I did watch your video, Paul. One of the team put it on the Rabble chat on Telegram. Absolute gobbledygook nonsense. But he won't say how many people went to the meeting. Fingers crossed that we can get a working coalition and a cabinet which allows all involved to formulate policies. If the unelected Paul Eric and the elected Mark Ince and Cameron Gaffar had stopped to read the council policies and procedures, they would know that the independents would have to form a group. And if the independents were to form a group, whether it was 10 of them, 16 of them, 8 of them even, some of the others would have to give up the platform, the group on which they got elected. Mark Wilkinson would have to give up his Failsworth Independence, or whatever that Failsworth branch is called, that him and Sandra sit under. Brian would have to surrender his Failsworth Independent Party. Mag would have to surrender the Royton Independence. Mark Hinz himself would have to surrender his Shaw and Crompton Independence and sit underneath Cameron Gaffar's sectarian Oldham group. Because they have the most numbers, don't they? They have 5 or 6. They've been going around collecting signatures of people to sign up. Last I heard, they went to Aisha and visited her in her house to make sure she signed. I don't think such behaviour is acceptable. I know Montaz has signed up to them. And again, they've visited him half a dozen times at least. En masse. Loads of them together. I reference this as gangster politics, because to me it is gangster politics. But they would all have to sign up to Cameron Gaffar's group. Not one of them thought that through, and then someone would have to be a leader, and they'd have to give up. And then if Cameron Gafford went to Howard Sykes or whoever, it wouldn't be just with a position, it'd be with a list of demands. And I'll get to Cameron Gafford's demands in a bit, that I'm sure Markins had no idea about. So we go back to this Shaw and Crompton post. Posted after Markins had posted his. Hi David. And this is to a guy called David Robinson, who I think is linked to Reform, from what I can work out. I can confirm that Councillor Markins has no ambition to be leader. I can also confirm until the S&C executive, so that's the Shaw and Crompton executive, meets next week. Didn't realise they had an executive because they're not a constituted party, but it appears, it suggests that there's some form of governance here. It is currently our intention to prevent Howard Sykes becoming leader by all available means possible. So if you want to prevent Howard Sykes from becoming leader by all available means possible, the only option you've got is either Arud Shah becoming leader or you promoting Cameron Gafford to become leader. Because there's no one else putting themselves forward. And if he is elected, so this is the grown-up politics here we're seeing, yeah? If Howard Sykes is elected, to bring his administration down at the first opportunity. So if his first act was a motion on a public inquiry, if his first act was a motion to bring in the auditors, to check the books of Oldham Council and all the capital expenditure over the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, if his first motion was to call in the police to investigate council officers for unlawfully abusing their power, to harass and intimidate members of the public, these people wouldn't care. They want to bring down Howard Sykes' administration at the first opportunity available to them. It must be noted that although Councillor Hinds is the lead community advocate, he is answerable to an executive and over 700 signed up supporters. Not to mention over 1,900 votes in Shaw and Crompton. It's very militant, isn't it? It looks like something out of the Russian Revolution. They want to bring down the council. Is that, to my friends in Shaw and Crompton who voted independence, is that what you voted for? To bring down the council? To prevent a public inquiry? To prevent the auditing of the council books? To prevent investigations into council officers? All because of this vendetta? So there you go. Agreed, Matt. They show how amateur and dangerous they are. Agreed. And if I'm speaking to you in the way I am, without emotion, it's because I'm actually angry. I'm more angry than I ever have been. You know when you rant and rave and you shout? I get that. But I'm beyond that with this. The people of our borough have sacrificed so much for so long. And these morons come along and are, for their own personal vested interests of power, are prepared sacrifice our children, to sacrifice our towns, our communities, so they can have a willy-waving pissing contest. But it gets worse. Along comes the fountain of all knowledge, Paul Eric. Until Friday evening, I was blissfully unaware that the independents would need to form an alliance group of some type if they intended to form a coalition with the Lib Dems and Tories to create a majority council. Well, if you've read the bloody Constitution, what do you think is going to happen? Howard Sykes speak to 17 different leaders across the independents. He's not going to agree to that. Nobody's going to agree to that. If you bothered to stop and read Howard Sykes' first statement, he wanted the independents to come forward as an umbrella. Work it out amongst yourselves, lads. And what Eric did, and what Gaffer and Hinz did, was that their egos got in the way and they destroyed any chance of some form of consensus being formed across the independent groups. It was a slim chance, but there was a chance. And now on the 22nd, Gaffor's playing all of them. He wants to be deputy leader. Hinz and his team will scupper it. And what will be left is Arud Shah in charge of Oldham Council. Is that what we voted for? Is that why we sacrifice so much? Is that why we believed in these people? Look, it says proud of Oldham and Saddleworth. They're not proud of anything. These are the sorts of people that have photographs of themselves as big as possible in their houses. They're playing us, and they're playing with us, and the worst thing is they don't even understand the rules of the game that they're playing. Darren Radcliffe and Nick Summerskulls have the two penneth, which I giggle at. Can Maggie Hurley and John Hughes last longer than an hour before they fall out with people, though? They've not even tried to make a partnership, guys. I didn't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved. But I will have to get involved. Because I bear responsibility here. I supported all of the independents. I trained them. I taught them what little they knew, and they thought they knew everything, and then off they went. You need to lose Cameron Gaffer. As much as I dislike Mark Ince, I do not believe him to be a sectarian. Who wants to use Gaza and Pakistani cartel politics to further divide a town? I don't believe that's the man. He can call me all the names he wants. And I have much to criticise him for, but I don't believe that is him. Paul Eric won't, because it's two millionaires together, and they like to, rich men like the sound of their own voices, and they believe that they're experts in all things. But Paul Eric isn't elected. Let me play something by Cameron Gaffar before we continue. This was a secret text message he sent out to his Muslim supporters.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Hope you're all well. I just want to clarify a couple of points. Yes, there are negotiations going on. The reason we can't say as just independents is because we won't get nothing done at all for the community. We need to go into an alliance. Need to make sure our demands are met. We have put some demands down. And if those demands are met, then we will work with the other parties. And alhamdulillah, if that happens, we will get cabinet positions, we will get what our community deserves. So please, just have faith in us, just a little bit more time. The meeting's on the 22nd of May, and then everything will be a lot clearer. And if they don't meet our demands, we don't care, and we will sit as opposition members. And that's, please just keep that in mind. And that's to all the brothers. We're not like the other party where, just for positions we will go and get ourselves and put ourselves forward just for the money on the cabinets, etc., etc. We're not like that. That's not what we want. We want our community, and we're putting our community first. And you're just going to have to trust us, because we can't actually divulge anything at all to anybody yet until it actually happens. And when it happens, then everybody will know exactly what we've done and how we've done it. And I'm hoping that inshallah ta'ala you'll be proud of us.
That's a rallying call text message sent out by Cameron Gaffar, voice message sent out by Cameron Gaffar after he was receiving criticism. We will sit in opposition until our demands are met. We won't share with you what our demands are, but we want positions on the cabinet. We want power. And your demands are power, aren't you? What are your demands? Why are you so secretive about your demands? I'm claiming these people are sectarian. I'm claiming these people are divisive. The Oldham group is exclusively Pakistani. Now they've got Azad as well, but it's exclusively Muslim. I'm not the one who's making this sinister. They're making this sinister. The Conservatives have put out what they want out of a coalition. The Lib Dems have put out what they want out of a coalition. The Right and Independents haven't, because I don't think they even understand what a coalition is yet. Never mind worked out what they can get out of it for their own community. Brian and his team have put out what they want. Mark Wilkinson has shared details of what he wants in Failsworth. Good things, decent things for their communities. And his talk of our community, Chris, let's be very clear. It's Pakistani community. It's the Muslim community. That's what it means. Because he also makes reference, uses Islamic terms like Alhamdulillah, God willing, and all of that. It's fine. But you understand, you'd use those terms when you're speaking to a certain audience. And indeed, again, for all the brothers, not the sisters then. I'll play it again for you. Let me play it again for you.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Hope you're all well. I just want to clarify a couple of points. Yes, there are negotiations going on. The reason we can't say as just independents is because we won't get nothing done at all for the community. We need to go into an alliance. Need to make sure our demands are met. We have put some demands down. And if those demands are met, then we will work with the other parties. And alhamdulillah, if that happens, we will get cabinet positions, we will get what our community deserves. So please, Just have faith in us, just a little bit more time. The meeting's on the 22nd of May, and then everything will be a lot clearer. And if they don't meet our demands, we don't care, and we will sit as opposition members. And that's, please just keep that in mind. And that's to all the brothers. We're not like the other party where, just for positions we will go and get ourselves and put ourselves forward just for the money on the cabinets, etc., etc. We're not like that. That's not what we want. We want our community, and we're putting our community first. And you're just going to have to trust us, because we can't actually divulge anything at all to anybody yet until it actually happens. And when it happens, then everybody will know exactly what we've done and how we've done it. And I'm hoping that, inshallah ta'ala, you'll be proud of us.
Get what our community deserves. What does the Pakistani community deserve any more than the Indian community, the Bangladeshi community, or the white community in this town? Surely we all deserve the same. And they're not priorities, they're not us, they're demands. Demands. And if we don't get our demands, we'll sit as opposition. That is code for saying we will allow Labour to keep control of the council. My thoughts are, we've come this far. We can't surrender to this. We can't surrender to whoever's writing the nonsense on Mark Ince's page, whether it's Mark Ince or someone close to him, I don't know, of taking this administration down if we don't get our own way. We can't give in to Ghaffar and his sectarian nonsense. Appeasement is the word. I'm not in the business of appeasement. These Pakistanis, and it is Pakistanis, have been trying to do deals with me for a number of years now. Let's sit down and do a deal. Let's sit down and do a deal. Get stuffed. There is no deals to be had with me. I am here to deliver justice for the children in our town who are groomed and gang raped. And I'm here to stand alongside every decent person in our town who wants to take back our town from this con artist, cartel, criminal infiltration of politics. We are taking our town back. And there can be no appeasement with these people. It's exactly what it is, Denise. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like blackmail to me. From both. From Hince and from Ghaffar and his team. Ghaffar, his team, Naveed Chauhan contacted me last Sunday night. Or Monday night. A challenging conversation. A very assertive gentleman. I'm clear on my position then, I'm clear on my position now. He claimed he had 10. I now have worked out who those 10 are that he claimed. They're the 8 Muslim councillors. 6 from the Oldham group, if we include Azad in there. Naila and Shoaib, who are playing their own game, which I'll get to in a moment. That makes them 8. And Hince and Navesy. If Mark Hince wants to get in bed with these people, then so be it. I want the town to witness who these people are. So you know Shaw and Crompton, the people in Shaw and Crompton, you know who your elected leader is getting in bed with. The deal done with Shoaib Akhtar and Nail Ibrahim was that Cameron Ghaffar would get to be deputy leader or leader, and Shoaib Akhtar and Nail Ibrahim would lend them their vote all the time from the outside. So they won't belong to the group, but they'd support them. And in return, the Oldham group, led by Cameron Ghaffar, would support Shoaib Akhtar to become MP for Oldham West, Chadderton and Royton. If you want such a narrow demographic to carve up the control and running of this town, and if we allow that to happen, then we might as well all pack our bags up and leave. So I call on all the other independents and the individuals from the other political parties. Help me save our town. I don't want us to become one of those places where sectarian politics control what happens, in a narrow group of Pakistanis or Bangladeshis or Muslims dictate what happens across the entire town. Brian Hoban, Mark Wilkinson, Sandra Ball, Hindle, Maggie Hurley, Jade Hughes, you can't do this without me. I have people in the Liberal Democrats who support me, I have people in the Conservatives who support me, I have people in the Labour Party who support me. Because this is a different war. That goes way beyond the petty politics and the egos that we've been dealing with so far. There were meetings held last week between the Pakistanis. Cameron Ghaffar and his team, Shoaib Akhtar and his team, there were meetings held last week. What was made clear to me, and I got fed back this from Pakistani people who were there, who were outraged. Because I have friends who are Pakistani, I have family who are Pakistani. I am, of course, of Bangladeshi heritage, and traditionally Bangladeshi people, such as myself, are more laissez-faire, we're happy-go-lucky, who integrate better. Under no circumstances were they going to let a Bangladeshi become MP. That's beyond sectarianism, that's racism. So they're mobilising, and I think they're getting the Workers' Party nomination for Shoaib. And they'll stand on a pro-Muslim, pro-Pakistani, pro all of those things. And they need me to lose. And they need me to lose because I dream of a future for our town that is very different to one that they dream of. One where we're all treated equally, fairly, and irrespective of our backgrounds. Those in power have to treat us with equity. The weaponizing of race needs to stop. And we need to accept and recognise and realise that there are prejudices within all communities that need to be addressed rather than just targeting on one. The 22nd will come. I think Howard Sykes will call their bluff. Support me or support Shah. If the independents support Shah, or if there's a as a consequence of the independent vote resulting in Shah staying in power. I don't think this town will ever forgive the independents, and that'll be the end. And then if Cameron Gaffar secures a deputy role perhaps, or works with Shoaib Akhtar on this sectarian, you control the council approach, control of one controlling the council and the other one becoming the MP, that means I will have been defeated. And all of us will have lost. This town can now only be saved by the decent people we elected to represent us. The first test is next Wednesday. I think it's at lunchtime, the 22nd. And the next test will be at the ballot box at the general election. And if I'm not the person to fight for you, then please tell me who is, and I will support them. I'll step aside right now and I'll say I'm with that person. Because I'm not a Paul Eric. I'm not a Markins. I don't want this. And for those of you who want to talk about a public inquiry with me, you need to understand I know what's coming next, and I know what's going to be asked of me. A vote, a motion on a public inquiry passed by a weak council isn't going to get anywhere. The government are going to reject it, delay it, ignore it. Thank you for the letter. You need someone in Parliament supporting it, championing it. You need a strong council. The motion itself actually needs to come from Brian Hoban, by the way. And when that motion fails, we need to put in the petition that I talked about with 3,000 or 4,000. And that petition needs to be took to Parliament, timed at a certain time, with the new Parliament, with the new MP, to galvanise support amongst other MPs. I'll be honest with you. This isn't a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2-year gig. When I looked at this and I knew what I was getting myself into when I made that announcement, when I came out of a prison cell, when I'd been unlawfully arrested again. Once we get the motion over the line, it's another 10 years. Yeah, sure, we might get in 5, 6, 7 if the wind is behind us. But it's another 10 years. So I know what's being asked of me, and I reflected when I spoke with my friend on Saturday night yesterday. She told me how I'd gone grey, wanting to know what my love life was like, what I'd do with my time. I do nothing but this. So I know what I am prepared to sacrifice. For no benefit of myself, or gain for me. Do I think Brian will put one in? What? A motion? I will write Brian Hoban's motion. Brian's been on a journey. And if I had my way, I would have Mark Wilkinson second in that motion, because that rift needs to heal for for the people of Failsworth, for the people of our borough, that rift between those two men, decent in their own way, both of them, needs to heal. Gray looks very. I mean, if it's any help, my friend remembers me from the days when I used to advise government when my hair was blue. I'm not joking. You had to dye it. I had to dye it white. I think, bleach it all out and then colour it blue. So that's where that goes back to. So it's my plea to the decent politicians out there. Regardless of the mistakes you've made or the mistakes I've made to you. This is bigger than me and it's much bigger than you. What sort of town do we want to live in? What sort of town do we want our children to grow up in? And when we look back, are we really going to surrender to the likes of Kamigafor?
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.